Hello everyone, my name is Scott Wellhite. Let's make a video, hopefully it's short. I was a victim of several sexual assaults in 2006 by a female perpetrator named Dusty Broadfoot. She was Dusty Coursey at the time. She is social media influencer, Rhegan Coursey's mom. Rhegan Coursey now is 22 years old, and I didn't know that. And I knew that because I went back and listened to a 911 call her mom made. There's details about this in my other videos. But her mom made a call to 911 in November of 2006 and said that her daughter Rhegan was 4 years old. And I thought, wait, is she lying about that? And I did the math and realized that Rhegan would have been 2 when I first met and started dating her mom, and then 4 when I moved out. I have been saying that she was 18 months old. I won't go into details, but there were, when you live with a kid, even 2 years old, I was 40 at the time, you kind of pick up the slack and try and help raise. You're living with some kids, you got to raise them. And there were things that I remember teaching Rhegan that sort of, I may be way off on when a kid learns to kind of take a shower or a bath by themselves, or clean up the room by themselves, or clean themselves up after the bathroom by themselves. Those are the things that I remember her being at the age of when I'm there. Cleaning herself up after going to the bathroom is an 18-month-old thing to me, or I've always thought that for the last 15 or so years. And I've got other kids, so she's not the first kid that I've raised at that age. Nevertheless, I also went back and looked at some videos of me engaging or interacting with Rhegan and her brother Preston. And I've previously said in a video that Preston may have been a little introverted. I don't think he was. One video in particular I looked at from today that was from a flip phone, so it's not the clearest, but he's probably very, very normal. I haven't been around him for almost 19 years, but he was 9 at the time, and I had previously described him as introverted. Everybody's introverted if you're in the same room with Rhegan, is the point I'm getting to. In a kind of funny, not mean way towards Rhegan. She just sucks up the oxygen in the room. So as I'm looking at it, watching a video of me asking Preston once what he got for Christmas, then I turned to Joe. I called her Joe Dirt back then. As well as later, I called her Rhegan McGillicuddy, because she's still at the age where she's trying to learn how to pronounce words. It's a bug zapper. So to hear a 2.5-year-old, who already has trouble saying some words, try to say McGillicuddy, that's kind of funny. Her name was Rhegan Coursey. That's her name today. Her dad's name's Tony Coursey, and he loved her, and she loved him a lot. Although her mom told me some things about her dad that I've said in previous videos. This is not to slight Tony, this channel, and what I'm trying to bring awareness to, which is rape myth acceptance. But he's part of the story. It's a traumatic story that I experienced, and I'm going to tell it. But I do remember that about Preston now, that he's just sort of a product of being in the same room with a mini Elvis Presley, kind of, if you want to look at it that way. Okay. But I wanted to, good, I'm 4 minutes in. Hopefully I can do this in 6 minutes. I wanted to explain how Dusty Broadfoot, Dusty Miller, Dusty Coursey, Rhegan Coursey's mom, the relationship she had with the Rockwall County District Attorney's office. So I want to put that into perspective. Because to be honest, I've told in another video about David Rhegan. It's called Rockwall County Injustice. And how David Rhegan knew Dusty, and he knew her when he was a assistant district attorney in the Rockwall County District Attorney's office, probably in 1996 or 7, when Dusty would have been a junior and or senior, because that's when she worked for the Rockwall County District Attorney's office. Well, the truth is, I only knew that leading up to March 2007 because of what Dusty told me. And Dusty is a sociopathic, deviant sexual predator liar. So I'm not a private investigator, nor have I ever. I tried to hire my attorney was going to hire a private investigator in 2007 for a reason, but I'm not digging up old HR I'm not doing FOIA requests for the Rockwall County District Attorney employee list from 1996 or 7. Not then, not now. So, and this worked against me back in 2007 or 8, because when I would bring this up to people, they just swore I'm being conspiratorial for reasons you'll have to look at another video or watch future videos to understand, because I'm going to keep this under 10 minutes. Dusty Miller raped high school kids in 2006, and she secretly did this. I was a victim of this too. The high school kids knew about it. It's a very bizarre situation. I wouldn't be out here talking about it unless I had video of it to prove it. But she did that in 2006 9 times, motivated by hate, mind you. And when I reported it, nobody did anything about it. And who I reported it to was the Rockwall County District Attorney's Office. And when I reported it, I knew Dusty I'd lived with her for almost a year. I had known her for 18 months. And she had told me I worked in normal conversation in the beginning. Last 2 or 3 months, she's using it as a threat. But she told me she worked for the Rockwall County District Attorney's Office, and she was going through a divorce in 2005 and 6. So every time she'd go to the Rockwall County Courthouse in 2006, summer, winter, all that, she'd come back and say, well, how was your day in court? You know, just hearings. She said, oh, fine. I saw all my friends at the DA's office. And she would tell me, sorry, the bud zapper's not working. She would tell me, she'd walk by, I guess there was a window, they'd see her, and she said they'd all run out and give her a hug. Especially Galen Ray Summerall, the elected district attorney. This is coming from Dusty. And this is at a time, this was in the salad days of the 18 months. So this is at a time when I'm thinking, well, that kind of, in my mind, I mean, I'm kind of jokingly saying, well, yeah, that makes sense. I do the same thing. So, but after I found out she did all these high school freak-offs, I had never seen a paycheck of hers. I'm going by her word that she works at the district attorney's office. And to be honest, and I told this long story in the Rockwall County Injustice video, had it not been for David Raycal recusing himself in a criminal matter involving Dusty in late 2007, and him citing his reason for recusing as the judge in the criminal matter, personal affiliation, the conflict was personal affiliation with Dusty Coursey, Broadfoot. I honestly would never to this day have solid proof that she worked at the Rockwall County District Attorney's Office. And to go take that even a step further, I can only, that's only propped up my assumption that she worked there by her saying that she worked there and David Raycal's word that was the conflict. If David Raycal's lying, I know she's a liar. I tend to trust that she worked there. So when did she work there? What kind of, if she said she worked at the Dallas County District Attorney's Office in 96, 7, 8, well, I'm sure there's 1,000 employees there at least then. There's about one prosecutor per 150. One prosecutor's caseload should not be over about 150 felonies. So if you start that might not make a kind of line up with everybody. But to put that into perspective, I went back a couple of days ago because I was curious. I've never looked to see how many people would have worked in the Rockwall County District Attorney's Office when Dusty worked there. And by the way, Dusty worked as Dusty told me she worked there as a runner. So what does that mean? It means I don't know, other than I assume she's running I worked at AT&T for 20 years, and we had intercompany mail, and it was delivered by somebody who delivered supplies also that was an employee. So it's going from office to office. There were 10,000 employees in the Dallas market area back when I worked there. So a lot of people, a lot of company mail that didn't have to go through postal mail. So a runner for a district attorney's office in 97, 96, 97, 98, Dusty's, and she's in high school, she's probably delivering and picking up court documents between all the lawyers in Rockwall, the sheriff's office, police department, that circle. And she was a little tart then. She tricked someone into buying her boobs at Hooters one day and had them banned the next. So she got fake breasts between then and when she was having freak-offs with high school students in 2004, 5, and 6. But she's that kind of personality, character. She is not the paragon of virtue in a community. So that said, a non-paragon of virtue, Galen Ray Summerall, by the way, the elected district attorney of Rockwall County, was investigated, convicted, and sentenced to 17 years in prison in 2007 and 8. So that kind of says a little bit about his moral turpitude. And he is who she worked for. So I'm getting back to how many people would have been in the Rockwall County District Attorney's office in 96, 97, 98. I looked at, I can look up crime stats like that because for, not 8 years, but 4 years as an undergrad, which I started back to college in 2014, 15. I just finished a grad program a year ago this month. And so for my undergrad, and I didn't tell anybody about being a victim of rape in those years. And that's when it's a long story, I'll tell it another time. But sometimes victims will, go in, especially when you're applying for scholarships. You'll say, I've been a victim of this, that, or the other, or I was brought up in a home that had abuse, or this, that, or the other. And scholarship givers often, like to give money to people like that. They're more deserving. By the way, I applied for one scholarship over the entire 8 years, and I did because I was 40. I started back at 50 to college, and I knew that I was going back to do this. And I didn't want anybody to fund that. And kids deserve it who are going to have a lot more years of being productive and changing the world. I'm still going to try and change the world, and this is how I'm going to do it. All right. Crime stats in Rockwall in 1996, 97, 98. There were about 369 larcenies. And then there were like 12 aggravated assaults, 12. There's about 7 or 8 crime categories of felonies. And by the way, the reason I can look these up quick, I didn't finish that thought, is because every undergrad academic paper I wrote was about criminal justice. So I got pretty efficient on the BJS website and associated. But when I found the crime stats for Rockwall in the late 90s, there were exactly 369 larcenies, and larcenies could be a felony or a misdemeanor. And then all the other categories the highest were 12, 2, 1, rape may be 1, murder may be 1, aggravated assault, maybe sexual assault, larceny, all felonies. But larceny, it's hard to imagine there's just, almost a flat line of crime on every category, except for larceny. There's 369 felonious larcenies in Rockwall in 96, 97, 98. The reason I say this is because I'm trying to determine how many employees would have worked in that office when Dusty worked there. Well, if you take every one of those larcenies at felony face value, there's 400 felonies in Rockwall a year in 1997. So that's, and if you say you load up 101 prosecutor or assistant district attorney gets, can handle 150 felonies, according to the American Bar Association kind of literature article, law review stuff, their prescription. That means they've got 3 ADAs, maybe 2 at the minimum, 2 or 3, 2 ADAs and maybe Summerall. Summerall was, I can't remember who told me this about Summerall, but they said he was the type of lawman who swore his jeans needed 3 legs. His dick's so big, he's just, So naturally, I love making fun of those guys. I said in another video that I called a Texas Ranger, Chris something, who investigated Sumro, by the way. But I called him a thin-skinned bitch. And the reason for that is because I called him shortstop on the phone one day back in 2007. He said he was going to whip my ass. Now, shortstop's the most important player on a baseball team, and he is a Texas Ranger. Now, I'm not going to swear, because it's not true, that I was showing him the same level of respect. What I was, the joke implication, I didn't intentionally mean for him to say he was going to whip my ass when I called him that. I'd talked to him once before and told him what happened, said, I need help with this. Something's not right in Rockwall. He said, okay, give me a couple of days and I'll call you back. He didn't call back a couple of days, maybe the third day I call him. He answered and said, hey, shortstop. And he said, if you call me that again, I'm going to whip your ass. So, and I don't scare easy. I don't scare at all. But, so that's why he's a thin-skinned bitch. But shortstop, you get the pun. Because he's a Texas Ranger. And so Sumro thought his pants needed 3 legs. 40 years earlier, the president of the United States thought his inseam needed to be lower because his dick was so big. So this is sort of men in power have this sort of micro dick energy going on. Sumro did too, as did Chris, as did Chris's boyhood friend, Lane Aiken. We'll talk about him soon too. But so if you assume that Sumro is there and he can handle some prosecutions, felony prosecutions, and then say 2 or 3 other ADAs, and how many support staff do you need of that? So when Dusty says that she knows everybody in the ADA in the district attorney's office in Rockwall because she worked there as a runner, that means as a runner she's going to know every criminal lawyer, or most, I think. This is guessing, it's speculation, and this is what backfired against me back then because I did the same speculation back then. I'm only regurgitating it now for a little for posterity and a little for, I have a feeling that right now only Dusty Miller Circle friends are watching this, maybe a couple of law people. But if she's a runner for a district attorney's office in the smallest county in Texas that has 400 total felonies conservatively, liberally, conservative may be 200, 250 if you don't count all those, every one of those larcenies a felony. Then 4, 3, 2, and then that many, it's 10 people or less in that office. Probably 15 or less. I don't know how many were in that office in 2006 when she went crying to them, but I know that they did very suspicious things. But I also know, I came to know, by the time I called that Texas Ranger named Chris shortstop, 8 months after Dusty called 911, the reason I felt confident in using that joke, because it was either going to backfire or it wasn't, was because I knew he was a dirty motherfucker that was either going to blow me off or he would maybe awkwardly joke and say, let's talk about what happened to you. Well, he chose the dirty motherfucker route. So that level of corruption was going on. And it could be just, that's how corrupt the criminal justice system is or was in 2007 and has gotten worse now. 77 million people decided it was corrupt enough to elect a man with 93 felony indictments last November. If that's not evidence enough of a electorate that has no faith in the current criminal justice system, I don't know how to teach. I can only lead a horse to water. That, my friend, says 77 million people who voted for Donald Trump don't trust it's fuck you, AUSA, and fuck you, state attorneys, prosecuting attorneys. And I'm a liberal, but my degrees are political science. I can read the room. I was raised in such a way that for 40 years of my life, I trusted the criminal justice system. I thought that, there's going to be a reasonable amount of stupidity in it. But if I need them, I'll call them. If somebody calls them and lies about me, and as egregiously as Dusty did, even though that did happen and I was exonerated or beat the charges, even though that happened and I wasn't guilty, as soon as I found out she was raping high school kids in the garage and in the house in the middle of 2007, and I told the ADA, there's a point where she can say, well, he's a defendant for these low-level misdemeanors that he will never serve a day for because he's never been in trouble before for 40 years. He's given to charity for 20 years, to 2 different charities that, he's raised kids and, he's a normal person. Or he can say, wow, this guy's saying that Dusty Miller has raped high school kids for the last 3 years. She chose, nope, the guy that had never been in trouble in his life for 40 years she's either saying that he's lying, I'm lying, I'm making it up because I'm charged with this, or what? If I say, or she's helping Dusty, I'm conspiratorial. So you tell me. So that's Dusty's relationship with the Rockwall County District Attorney's Office. Does she know Galen Ray Sumrow now? I don't know. But in 2005 and 6, when she was going to her divorce hearings, civil matters, and I guess the DA's office was in the courthouse. Maybe that's what she implied. Sumrow would get up and come out and hug her and talk to her, and as normal friendly relationships tend to do. And as I told you that, even though I didn't say it, when she tells me this in summer 2006, I'm like, yeah, I do that too, right? So yeah, it's a conspiracy, I guess. I don't know. But I know she snuck high school students into our house 9 times in 2006. And she thought it'd be a good idea to do sort of homosexual trope things to me in front of the high school students and then engage with them sexually and record themselves while they did it. And that's what the videos are. Oh, one last thing since I went over 10 minutes. I'll make this under 30. I previously talked about Dusty killing her family dog in order to get away with this. And she did. And I remember when it happened. They had Dusty and Tony separated in June 2005. And I don't know when they got married. But I think they bought that house in around 2000, and that was 2006. So it sounds like for about 4 or 5 years they had a family dog that was a pit or pit mix, and I've tried to remember the name, but she snuck. The way she was able to get away with these sex crimes was she had a gate to her backyard. Before she met me, she told me that her and Tony had strip poker and orgies in their garage, little freak-offs, with high school students, and I saw one of their faces. And she didn't tell me that. She didn't tell me that until about 3 months after I moved in. I saw the guy's face about a month before I moved in. I've talked about that in another video. But she just moved the little garage orgies with her ex-husband into the house without me knowing after I moved in. And the way they were able to get in was on the side of her house, south side of her house, if I remember correctly, Preston's bedroom side of the house. That's where the gate was. They would come into the backyard in the middle of the night, into the back door by the kitchen in the dining room, and then kind of across the house into this dark hall where Rhegan used to cry because her mom would lock her out of the master bedroom. Okay, well, something that was also very odd to me was her putting down the family dog in December 2005. About a month, close to a month and a half before I moved in. And it dawned on me later that the reason for that was because of all the times she snuck those high school students in. If you've got a dog, a 40, 50, 60-pound pit, and somebody sneaks into your back door in the middle of the night, even if the dog's going to give away the kids coming in. I can't read Dusty's mind, so I can't say why she killed the dog, but she did kill the dog, and she did sneak high school kids in the middle of the night. And it's not that far of a stretch to believe that when I say methodical, Dusty was methodical in her sex crimes, hate sex crimes. Watch the last video, and I explain why they're hate, why it's hate. 2 months before I move in, she kills the dog. A month and a half before I move in, she kills the dog, so it makes the most sense, so that the dog wouldn't get in the way of her crimes, of her sneaking in those high school students. That's the only reason why I can think of. I didn't know why then, but it happened. Her kids know it. Rhegan, the fact that I was mistaken about her being 18 months old and that she was 3 then, means that there's a better chance she remembers that dog. I know at the time she remembered it because I remember her talking about it a couple of times, coming up while I'm there with Dusty and Rhegan and Preston, and the dog comes up and Rhegan showing sort of transactional, I missed the dog. Rhegan was not, Preston was 9, he remembers it. That was their mother, methodically planning to perpetrate hate-motivated sex crimes where she molested children, minors. She's not a pedophile, unless 27, 28-year-old having sex with a 15, 16, 17 is not pedophilia. It's just second-degree aggravated sexual assault involving minors and drugs, and because there were weapons on 2 nights, that's what aggravates it. It's not pedophilia. But that's why she killed the dog, I guess, and that's how she knew Galen Ray Sumrow et al. All right. Have a nice night.